Hello, my name is Ahad Hussain, and welcome to Titan Alumni Talks, a weekly podcast where we talk to alumni about their journey as a Titan and where they are today. Having been established in 1957, CSUF is now nearing 300,000 alumni. Because we are a family of Titans, we should ask the question, who are our alumni? Join me every week as we meet some of our CSUF alumni from various industries to answer this question. For today's episode, we have Monica Deretich as our guest. She graduated from CSUF with a Bachelor's in Communication in 2009, and she now works as an expert digital marketer and former VP of Marketing and CRM at JustFab. JustFab is a fashion subscription e-commerce site with over 5 million members whose primary products include shoes, apparel, handbags, and jewelry. Thank you, Monica, for coming back to campus and joining us for this episode of the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Ahad.
So, one of the first questions we wanted to know is what happened after high school? What made you choose Cal State Fullerton, and how did you end up here?
Whoa, let's go back in time. So I graduated high school in 2004, and I actually entered college as a sophomore. I'm not sure if it's the case now, but way back when, you could take college classes at the community college for free, and you can get high school credit and start earning credits for college at the same time because I didn't want to rely solely on AP classes. But straight out of high school, which was Carson High, so I'm SoCal born and raised, I went to UC Santa Barbara for a year, and I knew my major was going to be communications, and they have a mass communications program, and I was there for a year. I had an amazing time there and lived the whole dorm life. But then after the first year, when I thought, hey, I'm going to have to start working, the job market in Santa Barbara isn't, too big, especially in communications. So I actually ended up transferring back home. I did a semester at Harbor College, which is a community college. And then after that semester, I got into Cal State Fullerton.
I see.
And what was really compelling about Cal State Fullerton is the College of Communications. I knew I still wanted to do communications. I love that there was a concentration aspect to the major. So, and I love that it required an internship in order to graduate, which is not something that was required at UCSB.
So how was the process of transferring from UC Santa Barbara to Harper College and then to Cal State Fullerton?
It's a long time ago, but I recall the process requiring a lot of just due diligence and research, figuring out exactly what I needed. So when I had to transfer, I think I had to take a statistics class at the community college and a chemistry class, just some general GEs before I could transfer over to Cal State Fullerton. I wasn't able to do a direct transfer.
Santa Barbara to Cal State Fullerton.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of work, planning beforehand, because if you went to the community college and you didn't know about stats, then you would have just had to spend another semester and wasted it.
And it's all about timing too. So making sure that you plan your moves with enough time to get what you need done and understand what you need to do, and then make it in time for that application process. So thankfully it was relatively smooth, and then I started my journey here.
I see. So when did you know that you wanted to be a communications major? Was it back in middle school or high school, or was it one specific thing that changed your mind?
I think I always saw myself in fashion. I'm sure we'll get to that in a little bit, but I didn't know specifically what aspect, really. And in high school, I took an aptitude test. It basically asked me things I like to do and how would I rank certain activities, and do I want to do the same thing every day, or do I want to work on a different project every day? And it spit out a bunch of different results, and at the very top was communications. And then it sort of explained all the different things that you can do with a degree in communications. So you could be you can go into entertainment. You can go into PR. You can go into advertising.
Start your own podcast.
You can start your own podcast. You can do so much with a focus in communications.
Yeah. I really like the aptitude test. It helps a lot of people since we like to see ourselves as knowing what we want to do, but there's a lot of times when you start high school or maybe you're undeclared as a major in college, it helps you just let you know what would be good for you. Like, it might not be the top of the list, but there might be something that just sparks your interest.
Or something that you're not even aware of. I have a niece in high school, and I found not the same aptitude test, but one very similar. You can find them for free and literally take it while you're eating lunch. And so she got also marketing and business, and also computer science. So it's funny that it's not always all in one area. And a lot of the times, if you like all three, you can find a way to make it work.
By minoring in two of them and majoring in one of them.
There you go.
And how old is your niece?
She is 15.
Oh, okay. Do you know if she's planning to go to Cal State Fullerton?
I think she's playing with a lot right now. She just got done doing a college entry prep course at UCLA.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So if it's not one of the Cal States, maybe UC.
That would be great for her, yeah. And you also mentioned that you liked how they needed an internship over here to graduate.
Yeah, so I was in school right when the recession hit. So if you graduated between 07 and 09, it was a really hard time to find a job. I think growing up and preparing for college, you're sort of used to hearing stories, or at least about people being offered jobs even before they graduate, just waiting for them. All of a sudden, that stopped during the recession. It sort of forced me to think how I wanted to use my time wisely here. So I actually ended up going to night classes, and working full-time during the day.
So the internship, where'd you get it at?
I got a public relations internship at Vans, one of my favorite companies. Obviously, I wore a lot of their shoes. And it really was a great introduction into how a workspace and a business can be fun and have culture. Because I knew whatever I was going to do, I needed to love, because I'm going to spend, my entire day there. So I knew from that experience that, work needs to be a passion.
And did the College of Communications help you find that internship, or was it something you needed to get to on your own?
At the time, I was tasked to find an internship, and I went to all the job boards I could find. I think I even went to Craigslist. Don't do that, folks. But I think I found it on a internship listing board, and I took a long shot. I believe it was posted for like over a month, and I thought, it would be great if this can happen. And I got an email, and I was brought in, and had a wonderful experience. I was actually there for 9 months. It was a paid internship, which was wonderful to have back then.
Was that your first internship that you found, or were you dabbling in it before?
It was my first and only. I know that from speaking to a few students here recently that you guys are just ahead of the game and have several internships under your belt before graduating, which I think is amazing. If I can go back in time, I think I'd probably do that. But I was also working full time.
Yeah, but getting your first internship or job, I remember my first experience when I opened up the email walking, it's something. It's really nice that I actually got in and walk in to the.
Something to be proud of.
Yeah. So it's super cool that they do that. I wish more colleges on campus would require internships, or at least some sort of job experience while on campus.
Agreed. I think it was crucial to my first steps in career after graduating.
And then forcing it upon you, because I know there's some people who want to stray away from it or just aren't as open, but if you needed to graduate, then you kind of have to do it. Otherwise, you don't graduate. I had a cousin in the University of Toronto, and he was a mechanical engineer, and the way that their program worked, you would take, I believe it was 1 year on and then 1 year off working. So you would just switch back and forth each year for 4 or 5 years, and then he came to the U.S. to work, and with that he already had 2 or 3 years of experience under his belt, while most U.S. students, they didn't have anything. So he was able to secure the job market.
Yeah, and that was the deciding factor, not to try and bring it back to something dark about the recession, but a lot of my friends graduated and then weren't able to find jobs because they didn't have the work experience via an actual job or an internship. So that was what really helped me be set apart once I graduated.
Yeah, because if they weren't hiring professionals in any field, it would be hard to imagine them hiring just college graduates who had nothing under their belt under that time.
Yeah, and then on the other side of actually hiring interns and finding interns, once you're out of college, it's not really an option to do an internship at least at like a corporate company based on company policy. I oversaw interns that the company required that the student be eligible to receive credit for the internship. So not only did they have to be enrolled in a college, they had to be eligible to receive credit. And some universities don't offer that during certain periods, like I think winter break. So it makes it challenging to even get that experience on the student side, and even more challenging for the companies that really want to help the students get that experience and also get some help while they're at it.
Yeah, it seems super difficult, and especially like when you're actually out of college and you're working on things on your own, you don't really have time to do an unpaid internship. So with that, what is the work that you do now at JustFab?
So I'm no longer with JustFab. I actually have taken the summer off. I had a shoulder injury, and I'm sort of working on healing and just an overall reset. I've been really working since I left college. And it's been nice to have this break. But my most recent role was VP of Marketing and CRM. And so what I oversaw was all of the site marketing operations for an e-commerce website, basically creating the strategy for an integrated marketing roadmap, which basically outlines everything from what the site's going to look like, what the stories we're telling, when things are launching on the site, how is it going to be told on site versus email versus on social media. I oversaw brand marketing. I oversaw the e-commerce merchandising. So if you go to a website and you see that it's somehow organized based on best recommendations for you, a lot of that is curation, or a lot of that is using big data at scale to customize a website just for you based on what you've browsed or purchased. Yeah. And then I oversaw CRM, which is customer relationship management, which basically means I oversaw the relationship from the brand to the customer as one-on-one as you can get it. So emails, SMS, push notifications if there was an app. Basically all that the customer journey life cycle. So if you're a new customer, an existing customer, a best customer, the communication that was sent from the brand would vary. Then I also manage the social media team and oddly enough styling as well at JustFab.
That's pretty cool. You do a lot of like behind the scenes that people don't really see, but they appreciate at the end of it.
Well, that is one thing that I knew I wanted when I was very young. I wanted to be part of the behind the scenes, like let's be a part of making it happen, but not in the spotlight. That's why I thought I was going to go into PR, which was my concentration here, which is not actually what I do.
So what made you change from focusing on PR and then switching that over?
So after my internship at Vans, I then decided to get my foot in the door at Hot Topic headquarters. And while I already had experience working at other fashion brands like Michael Stars, as well as being a sales representative in wholesale sales at Lucky 13 Apparel, I really knew I wanted to work for another company that had a very similar office culture, which was Hot Topic. And I applied for a customer service role, and the talent and acquisition teams, asked me if I was interested in working as a receptionist.
I see.
So I started as a receptionist, and about 6 months in, I had an opportunity to work for the e-commerce team. So this was in 2009, and back then, Hot Topic had, I think, around 700 stores nationwide, and e-commerce was maybe about 8 to 10% of total revenue, right? Really, really low. So the e-commerce team was almost like the redheaded stepchild because, we just needed to drive traffic to the stores in regards to, marketing goals. But the person who hired me took a chance on me because I really wanted to find my way into marketing, and that was my way in, right? Like, I was a receptionist. I got into the company I wanted to work for. I was in a role where I saw and greeted people every day, so they knew my face and name where they wouldn't have otherwise if I had worked in customer service. And then I applied for a role in web production where I thought, well, this is pretty close to marketing. and maybe PR, what I thought I wanted to do. And I quickly found that when you make any update to a site, especially an e-commerce site, you know right away if something worked or it didn't work. And that translates into dollars and cents, whereas PR is measured by impression, and you can't really put a dollar amount to that. And that's what sort of sparked my interest and pivot in my career early on.
So it's all about like someone taking a chance on you, like a higher up just seeing something and pushing you there, whether it's like a teacher or in your case like a manager or a boss. And I've had those like instances too where my boss would be like, all right, just go for it. We're trusting you that you could do well on it. And yeah, if you do well in it, then it could change your entire course, you know, so like it did with you. So what exactly did you do at Vans again when you were an intern?
So as an intern, I was definitely in charge of organizing the sample closet. I'd make many trips back and forth to the warehouse and bring new shipments of shoes, new collections. Obviously, that wasn't the fun part, but I did get to handpick relevant styles and send off to stylists for editorial photo shoots, and then or celebrities for different events. So I think I remember packing a pair of shoes, a box of shoes actually for David Beckham. I kissed the shoes before I put them in the box. Johnny Depp. And it was so cool just knowing that they were being sent to them, even though they were just being sent to people, and who knows if they actually wore them. You know, celebrities get gifted things. But on the chance it actually hit for like an editorial, for a magazine photo shoot, I knew what magazine it went to around what time. So then my job was also to go through all of the magazines and basically earmark anytime I saw Vans. And then that would be a product placement. Oh, right? I would also write a few press releases that they would give me, and just be the liaison for the PR team at that time.
So even though it was just for communications, you still needed like a great fashion sense to be in it. I'm thinking if I went to do that, I would not know what to do.
I think they actually, my manager at the time told me that she selected me because she asked me what my ideal internship company would be. I should, of course I said Vans first, and I was wearing Vans when I interviewed, but then I said Betsy Johnson, who was really big at that time, and it really struck with her. It showed that I was serious about doing fashion PR, and that's what I wanted to do at the time.
That's pretty cool. And so with that, I was actually a TA for HCOM 100 a year back, and I decided to take it because instead of that, I could have taken the written class for communications, but I found that orally communicating something is also super important. Did you do much of that on the job?
I can't recall specifically to the internship, but I think it as a skill, as part of your skill set, communication really needs to be key, both orally and written. I never delete an email, and I think as you grow in your career and become a manager and a leader, you really need to be clear on what the expectation is, and part of that is making sure that the communication is there, giving the why behind something so that you're empowering those that are working with you to make their own decisions as well. So I'd say it's both written and oral as far as importance.
Make sure your point comes across. Yeah. Is there anything at Cal State Fullerton that you saw specifically shaped you?
I think I had a couple, I'll share. First was I actually was able to be part of a study abroad program. It's Global Media Management was the name of the program, and it was a summer in Florence, Italy, and it really changed my life and opened culture and travel to me. I knew then that I needed to find a career where it allowed me to travel and took me places. So it sort of affirmed, I want to work in fashion. I want to travel the world. I want to be in these places. Now, I'll be honest, I don't remember exactly the classes I took as part of this global media management program, but the experience has stuck with me for a lifetime. I actually met my best friend there during that program, which I think everyone should do, study abroad as part of their college experience.
Yeah, it seems like something, especially in your case, you did it before the Vans internship?
I did it Before, yes.
Yeah, so it feels like it could be something, especially since it was in Italy. You know, a lot of fashion goes on there, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is like a lot of experience based off of just like the country you go over the classes that you take because the classes are similar, like they're accredited, so they're based off of each other to an extent, the ones you can take here.
Yeah, and just seeing how, how other people live their lives, it gives you so much perspective, and it really, it sort of shapes the possibilities, especially, gearing up to graduate, which I think I had like a couple more semesters when I did that. So super valuable, super pivotal. The second pivotal moment, or I guess favorite memory of my experience, one of my last classes was PR management. I was already working full-time at Hot Topic. By that time, I was already working in CRM and email marketing, and he broke the class up into groups, and he found, an actual company. It was called Second Brain. The idea was consolidating all of your social media into one place so that you didn't have to log in,
It seems like a pretty good
Right,
thing,
this was 2008, I think.
That'd be so useful right now.
Right. So found a real client, and they split everyone in the class into groups, and he said only one group is going to get the A. So we were in a team the entire semester, and only one group basically gets the client, which is, a real world situation, right?
Yeah.
And I was so determined. I was on a great team that really contributed, and I remember being really motivated and driven by, one, competition, two, an actual real client, and presenting back. I felt like it was, putting what you learn into practice versus, simply writing it down or taking a test. So I really appreciated that experience.
Especially since it was in one of your last classes before getting out into the real world.
And because we got the only A.
But that's super cool that he did that for you guys, because it just shows a lot that teaching just isn't writing something down or like taking a test like you said, but it could be a lot of just real world experience, because that's one of the most important things you need before you graduate, like whether it's taking the internship like you said, or like requiring the internship, or just taking a class that just teaches you how you would act when actually getting a client.
Right.
And it was a real client too, which is also makes it a lot more like believable than.
I think he was based in Norway too, so he was up really late watching us present.
That's pretty
via
cool.
Skype. Yeah.
He took the time to like help you guys out because he knew that it would help learn a lot in comparison to actually like taking a test on that. What was the class about?
PR management. So basically pitching PR strategy to a client. So basically outlining opportunities, strategies, tactics, and execution plans.
I see. And you use a lot of that in the work you do now.
I do. It does translate a lot into putting together a marketing plan. A lot of what I learned, I will be honest, was on the job. I don't think when I went to school here that e-commerce was big enough to be part of a curriculum.
That's true.
Definitely social media was not. So I think a lot of the fundamentals were definitely learned in class, but a lot more was learning as I go.
Yeah, especially in the last like 3 or 4 years with Amazon coming up and most companies moving to an online site. It's something that you do learn as you go with it. It's not something you can just know from 4 years ago and just expect to know something.
And everything changes so quickly.
Yeah.
So by the time it's an official thing or class you can take, I'm sure it's evolved, and that's what I love about it.
It is fun. It's a fast-moving business. It's driven by competition quite a bit, and I've noticed that since when Amazon came in, before they did their 2-day shipping, most companies weren't even anywhere close. But then once they did, Walmart comes up, Target comes up, and they all want to fight for that spot of being, you can sit at home and get stuff delivered to your house.
Yeah, it's a lovely world we live in. I actually spoke at a conference called shop.org and had a session on how to out-personalize Amazon.
How does that work?
Basically using the data that you collect from a customer's actions and behaviors layered onto explicit data they give you. And out-personalizing Amazon is not easy, but is possible in certain spaces. I think they may be lacking specifically in fashion.
Oh, so
when you go to Amazon, you sort of know it's either specifically what you want or a general idea.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're shopping for clothes, at least women, we kind of want to browse and see a lot of things. And I think surfacing those products are a little bit easier on different UX and UI experiences compared to what Amazon has. I'm sure they'll crack that nut very soon.
So it's also because Amazon has such a broad area that they focus on. You don't just go for clothes or like for tools or like cell phones, battery packs. It's such a wide range that it's kind of hard for them to keep up with that. But with a big company, I feel like
they totally will, which is why it's really key to have either an exclusive product or service that Amazon.
And Forever 21 is closing down. Have you heard of like that?
Yeah.
So how do you work around that? Was that like big news in your company or?
Oh, total big news and a real bummer. There's been a lot of Chapter 11 bankruptcy, updates around and specifically within fast fashion. I think one of the biggest ones I remember hearing was American Apparel. A lot of the companies sort of find their way to make a comeback or they get bought out and, they're revamped. Look at Nasty Gal, for example.
Yeah.
They were bought out by a company called Boohoo in Europe. And so they're still with us, just a different parent company. I don't know if Forever 21 will go away. I hope that, something happens with them, that they stick around. But I think it's showing of the times in regards to fast fashion specifically. I think when sustainability is top of mind and focus for a younger generation, inexpensive clothes without not best quality is not something that we that I feel our younger generation is focusing on. They're maybe focusing on quality a little bit more and being sustainable and just I think that's where it's going in regards to fast fashion. On top of that, I think Forever 21 had that top tier space in regards to, let's say college students. I'm sure it does, but then when you have big players like Fashion Nova come in who don't have all the retail overhead and all that real estate space that they need to pay for and are offering fast shipping at good prices, and then they're working with the right talent and influencers, it's, it's clear what's going on with Forever 21.
It's like if you're at the top for too long, then you don't try and diversify or strive to do something new because it's just working.
It's so important to innovate.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge.
And they don't really have like much reason to do it. And then a company that's like from the bottom, they just came right up.
You don't want to be a sitting duck.
Yeah, and then they just pass right through it. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we'll come back, we'll talk to Monica about some of her other things that she did on campus and what led her to her job today. And we're back with Monica, and we're going to start asking her about the things she did on campus. So first of all, how did you get to school? Were you commuting? Did you move nearby and just walk there? How was that?
So when I transferred over to Cal State Fullerton, I actually ended up moving very close to campus off of Placentia and Nutwood. So just on the other side of the 57, and I walked to school. And when I transferred, this was after coming off this great first year of college at UCSB, dorm life, not working. So I was working full time. Therefore, I was at school at night.
And you worked full time where?
I worked full time at a clothing company called Lucky 13 Apparel, which was this rockabilly punk clothing company that I loved and somehow landed a wholesale sales job. I was a sales representative responsible for all of the Northwest territory, which was a really amazing job. I got to go to Magic, which is at the time was a really big trade show where all the celebrities would reveal their fall or spring lines, and I'd write orders in booths for retail stores that would travel all the way to Las Vegas. I would also visit my stores twice a year and got to have that experience on the sales side of fashion. which I really loved. But I did that full time, all day during the day, 5 days a week, and then I'd come and take a class at 7 o'clock, and then study the rest of the night, and do it
all over again.
And I did it all over again. But I think what got me through it is because I worked for, I somehow landed a job doing something I loved.
Yeah. It seems like it would be pretty cool. Like, you were only like 19 or 20 at that time?
Yes.
And get such a big job there, but it just seems pretty hectic. You were like running around.
It was hectic. And unfortunately, it also meant I didn't get to do as many activities as I feel like I would have liked to do looking back. So I wasn't part of a club. I think technically I was part of the ski and snowboard club at UC Santa Barbara, but didn't go ski or snowboarding once. And I didn't get to do too many activities because it was at night. It's a different crowd of very serious students that, also work during the day or have kids, and they're sort of like in and then out, which I have a lot of respect for. Obviously my experience got me where I am today, so I'm grateful for that. But shout out to all Unite students out there.
Yeah.
I don't personally take night classes. I'm more of a morning person, but I understand that night classes work better for some people just in terms of their scheduling or when you work a full-time job. But since a lot of students here are commuters, it dies down during night.
Doesn't it?
No. And in fact, when I was running late from work, I'd drive, instead of driving to my apartment, which was walking distance, I'd have to drive and find parking, and
it would still be busy at that time?
It's still busy, and driving here today just didn't change. Thank you for that parking permit, Ahad. But I'm going to share this story because I was telling you when I walked in, but I would follow people as they were leaving campus and ask them if I could take them to their car so that I can get their parking spot. So that hasn't changed, but it's good to hear that they're putting another parking structure in because it's desperately needed, and especially since Cal State Fullerton is such a commuter school.
It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. You just have to go for it. So, yeah, a lot of students, even though if they do have time, like maybe like freshmen, they don't really join too many clubs or events, and it is sort of unfortunate since anything in that club or an event could change. Like, it could be a ripple or a butterfly effect, and then you won't really notice it until a year from now, 2-3 years, you'll be like, that small thing that I did, it led me to another thing, which led me to another thing, and I met this person through it, and it's a lot of things that come through it.
I couldn't agree more. Networking is absolutely key. It's, I think I joined PRSSA way back when, and
Over here at Cal State Fullerton?
Here, yes.
Oh, okay.
And I don't believe I went to any events, but I did follow all the updates and the job listings when I was looking for internships. Yeah. But it is who you know, and the relationships that you maintain. Luckily, I worked in PR, or not worked in PR, I studied PR, so that is all about creating and maintaining relationships. Yeah. And while I'm not doing PR currently, I know that the importance of maintaining those relationships, because you don't know what's going to bring you. And as you start to look for jobs or even internships while you're still studying, it is really who you know. And I found that the degree that you guys are working on getting is super important and pivotal to the beginning of your career. I think I look at that as basically what will open a door for you. And I think if you have an in or someone you know, that person's going to help you get through the door.
Yeah. Even if it isn't like you're finding people just to improve your career, just knowing people in just like a friendly manner, it could do quite a bit.
It is such a small world, especially in fashion, in LA. It's a very small world. So, tip is to not only foster those relationships and, maintain your professionalism and just simply be a good person so that you don't burn any bridges, because people know each other. Yeah. And if they don't know you directly, they may know someone that knows of you. So just always keep that in mind.
Especially, like, say it's on LinkedIn and then you apply for a job, they can see mutual connections, reach out for any advice, and then if there's any bad blood there, then something could come up.
Yep, it begins now.
Yeah. And there's always something that, like, there's a ripple effect that always happens. Like, probably with your job, you probably got it from another job that came from your first internship that came from someone just recommending you to go up, or...
Yeah, actually, I moved over to JustFab after 4 years at Hot Topic, and my friend who was a graphic designer at Torrid, which is the plus-size brand we worked for, went to JustFab, where she became the art director, and she said, water is fine here. I went over, and then I loved it so much that I recruited my own boss. And then she came over, and we both had immense growth and development while we were there.
Yeah, so it's all like these small things that eventually add up, and you don't really see it as they happen, but after a while you think, how did I get here? Oh yeah, the small thing that if I didn't go that day, or if I didn't talk to this person about this, I just wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of things like that. So you would say that you would want to get more involved on campus, but with your full-time job, it seemed like it was a little difficult for that to happen.
I think I could have tried a little bit harder. But I think in my experience in study abroad and the people I met during that summer, where I got to see every day, got to travel with, and have memories that no one can take away, those connections will remain. And whether or not they lead to an opportunity, like it's still nothing to scoff at.
Yeah.
My professor was actually giving a really good speech in class yesterday, and he was just asking us why we didn't study abroad or why we don't want to, and a lot of people were saying finances or they didn't have the time, and he just brought up that the $2,000 right now that you might have to pay out in cash, it will mean nothing in like 5 years. Like, you won't regret it on your deathbed saying, I should have saved those $2,000 instead of studying abroad. It will be the opposite.
Save yourself some Starbucks for a couple months and invest in travel now, because you think you're busy now. You will be a lot more busy second life hits after graduating.
And it's investing in yourself type of thing.
Yes, it is absolutely an investment. All travel and experiences is an investment in yourself.
So what is one thing that you would have done differently on campus if you could go back again? Would it be taking another minor? Was it being meeting with a certain professor or joining a certain club?
Well, I always wanted to do a minor in international business. Thankfully, I've gotten the work experience in that and in my line of work, which I'm grateful for. But I think I should have probably stuck it out a little bit more and just got that under my belt. And then another thing is, if I can go back in time, I maybe would either pick up another minor or change to computer science. I think for those that are listening right now, don't be freaked out if you want to go into fashion. It's not for everyone, but I learned that the software engineers in the fashion space have it really nice. They get to build stuff. They can design. They can work from anywhere in the world. The starting salary is really impressive, and there is just a growing need. You can't have a company without a website, so they're in high demand, and I'm currently trying to push my niece into becoming a software engineer.
I feel like a lot of people miss the importance of computers nowadays. They see fashion, why do I need computers? Or they look at business and say, why do I need a minor or major in computer science? There's a lot of things that go in it. Just knowing the workarounds or having like a small amount of experience under your belt, it could do quite a bit for you in the long run.
Oh, completely. I went to school before cell phones were a thing, and I remember the teacher saying, you're never going to have a calculator in your pocket. Well, I do have a calculator in my pocket. It's my iPhone, but also they were right in regards to the amount of math. I work in fashion and I work on a website, but everything that's done on a website is measured. The performance is measured. If you're familiar with an A/B test,
I am not.
You're not. So basically, an A/B test is simply taking one experience and testing it against another among a similar group of people or the same type of people. And then you measure the performance of the control versus the test, and you see if you get any incremental lift. So a lot of that involves math. You have to look at the delta and the statistical significance. So back to stats, and I do use it every day. Yeah, there's a lot of math in doing performance marketing and e-commerce site.
Yeah, you took a stats class, right? You mentioned.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah. Was it something that you were expecting? Like, oh, do I have to take it? Were you like a math type of person, or was it?
I wasn't bad at math, but stats was definitely hard. I don't think I could do it today. But if I were given a problem set into like what I do now, sure.
Yeah.
But also a lot of people that were into math, they can become analysts in, in fashion for an e-commerce site. So you could be, I love to call myself a data nerd. I think data is power, and this is how businesses make their decisions, right? And they need people to understand how to tell a story through data. So, and if you happen to be one of those people and you like to wear cute shoes, boom, like you could do what you know how to do and like to do and insert yourself into an industry that may be fun for you.
It seems like most majors, especially on this college campus, can just like relate to fashion if it is your interest. It's like if you have two big things, you like fashion and then you like math, you could do it. Fashion and public relations, communications, comp sci, business.
You could, not even fashion. I mean, yes, fashion, but also sports.
Oh, yeah.
Right? There's sports analysts. They also have plenty of websites to manage and are selling merchandise.
Yeah, they have the sound engineers, the software engineers, all that thing that goes into it.
Oh, yeah, the creative side, the design side, the product technology side. At the end of the day, if you're maintaining an online presence, you sort of have to have all those hats.
Yeah, there's so many things that go into it, especially behind the scenes, like where you work, that most people don't see it, but they'll notice if it's not there.
Yeah, and if you love SurveyMonkey now and polling on social media, hey, there you may have a feature in market research or consumer insights.
So what is some advice that you would give to students who are trying to get into fashion, but they don't really know if it is for them?
Well, I mean, we talked a little bit about internships, so definitely would recommend taking one. And if they're not at that point where they want to commit time to an internship, I'd look up your favorite fashion brands and read their About Me section. A lot of them basically share their background, why they came to be, the problems they were trying to solve, see if you're aligned with them. Also, there is an amazing podcast series called How It Was Built, where they interview the founders of different brands and companies, and they basically share their story on how it was made, which a lot of the times it goes back to their experiences in college and what inspired them. Granted, these people started their own companies, but a lot of the episodes are around fashion brands, so it's really interesting to get insight into like how it was built and created and structured to give you that inside look like, oh, would I want to be a part of that? And there's also a podcast called The Business of Fashion. I actually gave an interview earlier in the summer, and this podcast series is all about helping people who are starting their own fashion brands. So there are a lot of great episodes on that. I highly recommend if you're interested in entering fashion.
They seem like a pretty podcast person.
Yeah, I've had a resurgence of podcasts for personal use. I think I started to listen to podcasts maybe like 2 years ago more seriously, but before that I was just very touch and go, and now I'm obsessed with like murder mystery and and self-help and just comedy.
Yeah, I used to just like listen to music and like day to day, just to pass the time, but now podcasts are super fun to listen to. Yeah. There's one called Why Women Murder, and it's all about why we don't see it coming and the way they do it, and it just goes like case by case. And they just started it a few weeks. I love it.
Is it like Snapped?
Yeah, it's like, yeah. It's like why they snapped or what's like behind it and the methods they use to do it. And the host of it is super, like her voice is just perfect.
Well, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it is amazing. And touching back on all the things you've done, I wanted to ask you, what does success mean to you, and how has that changed from when you were at Cal State Fullerton and with what you do now?
Yeah, so when I graduated, I just wanted to get into fashion and marketing. That was just like my main goal. Thankfully, I was able to do that through the recession and everything, and I'm really proud of how it turned out for me. Obviously, success in doing your job means accomplishing your goals. But I had a really great boss that told me I should always have a 5-year plan, and a written out 5-year plan. And when I graduated, it was all about, okay, get a job in fashion, coordinator entry level, and it was very title based. Success a lot, back then was driven by what title I had and how much I made.
Yeah.
And now it's a little different. With been working full time for a really long time. So while pay is definitely important and title definitely is important, success means being a little bit more well-rounded. You'll learn that when you have your head down and working hard, it'll pay off. But then as you get older, you're fulfilled by other things. I'm making sure that you leave room for that. I find that to be my current definition of success, is to find something you are good at and love to do and get paid for it. And then also making sure that you have room in your life for things outside of your career.
So that's also like improving on yourself is a good way to invest your time or money in it. So instead of like being at the top or getting to certain jobs that would pay more, you would go for another job that doesn't pay as well, but it helps you gain experience as a person.
I think if you find the right opportunity, definitely maybe worth considering, especially when you have a lot of experience. Fortunately, I'm at a place where I can consider those things and sort of weigh that out. But it really all depends on what you want for yourself. And I think as you progress in your career, it's important to do a lot of that self-reflection to figure out, is this what I want? Not everyone's going to be fortunate enough to, love every single job that they have. And it's a give and take.
Yeah.
And it seems like that ties back into when you studied abroad. Some people would say it's a waste of time, or they just want to focus on their studies instead of trying to travel. But getting that experience and learning about yourself and others, it seems like it was really important, and that also ties back into what you think success means now to you.
Agreed. And right now I'm taking a break and actually using this time to reset, and I think it's only going to set me up for success here on out.
Yeah. Not everyone gets the opportunity to do it, but it's also that the people who do have the opportunity don't take it. So taking a break from things and just seeing things from like a third person point of view, it helps you like reevaluate things from an unbiased position.
Right. Absolutely.
And it could be not only like you taking a break from working, but it could be a student taking a break from school, like a semester off, or even just taking a lot of GEs one semester, just to make sure they have time to improve on themselves, or just to reflect on their major and other things that they're doing.
Totally. And it doesn't necessarily mean idle, like sit on the couch and watch Netflix. It could be, if you're actually taking a semester off, it could be, hey, I'm going to learn a new skill, or I'm going to take up, yoga, or just find another activity that sort of activates a different part of your brain. And also, if you don't have the luxury of taking a whole semester off, making time on the calendar for you. I really wasn't into meditation when I was in college, and not actually up until recently, but clearing the mind. I know that, studying and finals and, working is super stressful, and a lot of people are driven by stress, myself included, but that eventually takes a toll on your body. So it's important to carve out that time, that half hour, to just reset your mind and body and sort of take care of yourself. Now that term is used, self-care, right?
Yeah.
Don't forget about self-care.
Yeah. Whether it's mental or physical, just anything.
All of the above.
Yeah. Just a small portion of your day just to relax, rejuvenate, and just to clear your thoughts, just so you can get back to your work and just...
It's okay to be selfish. It's just like when they say right before you leave on airplane ride, you have to take care of yourself before helping others. And I'm a true believer in that.
Because you can help as many people as you want, but then you'll get burned out yourself, and in the short term, it could seem better. You just helped 3 people, but in the long run, you could have helped so many more if you made sure to watch over yourself as well. So we're going to take another commercial break, and then we're going to continue asking Monica about some advice that she has to give you all. And we're back with Monica, and we're going to ask her about some advice that she's ready to give students now that she's graduated and has gone through the experience of transferring to school, working full-time, graduating, and then getting a job in her field.
Cool. So a few tips for all of you. The first is be open. you never know what's going to get you to the next point. So in my experience, I was open to a receptionist role, even though it had nothing to do with marketing. And that got me to the next step. So I think it's really important that you get into the right company or right industry or industry adjacent and just be open to that, because that can open another door for you.
And that could also tie back to some of the classes that people take. Maybe if they're taking, like say I'm a comp sci major, a lot of us, we'd stick with comp sci. When it comes to the GEs, we'll focus on the ones that are most relatable with it. But it's also good to like spread your wings and just try and find something.
Right. Right now is the time to explore what you like and what you don't like. It's a lot more difficult to change course. Later in your career, it's not impossible, but it's a lot more difficult. So just figuring out what you like to do, what you're good at, and really doing that exploration now and being open to that now is super, super key. The second, I know we talked a little bit about data before, but I really think that data is power. And in any company, in any role, if you do your research or you have some information to back up your idea, it will be listened to. Most of the time, if you're at a company where there, fosters a lot of collaboration, if you have that data to back you up, you will look super prepared. You'll know what you're talking about, and it'll give you credibility. The next time a problem should arise, it will go to you.
So just make sure you do your due diligence before like speaking out or just having some side knowledge about the thing that is on topic.
Right. And then the third tip, and this I realize comes more naturally to some than others. But in addition to, being really smart and at what you do and really good at your job when you get there, it's important to also know how to treat people in the workspace, whether it's an office or in the field or even virtually if you end up working remote. Having the courtesy of respect goes a long way and is remembered, and people want to work with you. I think a lot of people are really great at their jobs, but they often forget that, and it doesn't always foster a healthy work environment. And you want to be in a healthy work environment, and you just treat others the way you want to be treated.
I think there is a business communications class that is offered here, and it seems like that would be pretty applicable to, not require, but recommend it to students, as most of us are going to be working in a business setting. Most of us aren't just going to start our own company, but even if we do, that is a business at that point. So if that's the case, then learning how to communicate with others in your field and just figuring things out together in a respectful manner seems pretty important.
I have two more.
Yeah.
So for those that are interested in marketing, I remember comm law being super, super interesting, not in the actual law, but, coming out of the gate and knowing what you can and cannot say on social media. Was really, really key. How to run sweepstakes. That obviously translates beyond fashion, but knowing those laws to kind of set those guardrails for your innovative ideas, right? Like you may have a really awesome idea, but you may want to know, like, is this possible before then pitching it to your manager or your boss.
Are there like restrictive laws when it comes to all of that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
There are. So, and it really depends on the country and state, and, you'll hear, for sweepstakes, no purchase necessary, so you could technically have to take in mail submissions and count those in. Understanding the law is really key.
But that's also, it comes back to the background thing where if it's there, then it's just like required for it to be there. You don't get like a pat on the back for it. But if you do miss out on that, then there could be like some consequences that come with it.
It actually ties into all of them in doing your due diligence. And, I think back to that PR management class we talked about earlier, and making sure that everything that you do is concise and thoughtful, and that when you bring it to a company or to your manager, that they can see what your work ethic is. And if they see that right away, they'll take that chance on you.
I see. And the question I had about, since you work in a multitude of jobs, how do you know when it's the right time for you to switch a job and when you should start looking? And even if that job is a better fit for you, and it's not like, because you're jumping a ledge to go to a different job, it's not like you can backtrack and just beg for your job back. So how do you know that ledge will bring you up instead of put you down later on?
So for me, I knew it was time to move on to the next thing when either it was no longer a challenge for me. I like, fortunately with the companies I work for, I got up in the morning and I looked forward to going to work. Yeah. And obviously not everyone wants to get up on a Monday morning, especially after Super Bowl, and get to their job. But for the most part, I've always had that feeling. So when that sort of slipped away and it wasn't a challenge, then it's time for the next move. And then as far as looking back, I'm a believer that what's in the past is in the past. Everything happens for a reason. You're on a journey, and it's not always a to B situation. You could come back. A lot of the companies I've worked for would be happy to have me back. Yeah. And you always want to make sure you leave that being an option. So there's nothing wrong with going back. But as far as looking back at your experience, especially when you're just gaining that experience, I think you want to make sure you look forward and build on what you've learned.
Especially when you're starting off right after college, each job provides you with something different. And when you're 21, 22, you don't have that much experience in life or in the workforce. So there's a lot of things you can get from one company that you would not get at the other.
Right. You may learn what an amazing company is like to work for versus a not so amazing company, an organized company versus unorganized. And that's sort of where you start developing your own preferences. The more experience you get, the more you sort of have options, right? At the beginning, you don't have too many options, right? You're trying to gain that experience. So once you have it, you sort of can decide, okay, I want to work for this type of company, a company where I could wear many hats, or I want to work for this other type of company because I only do this job. You learn about yourself. I think all of life is a journey, and you should learn from everything, not only your successes, but your failures as well.
So as I'm thinking back on it, even if that job that you took, it isn't as good as the other one, at least you know that isn't something that you want anymore.
Well, you should always be looking at your next move as a step up, or if it's a lateral move, that there is that potential for growth. And that growth could either come from a promotion opportunity, or that growth can be, I'm also going to learn this other skill set while I'm here. And that's when you should consider about making a move. Taking a step down should not be done unless there is potential for either that promotion growth or that developmental growth.
I see.
You should look at it not like a ladder, but like a step, and then it expands this way before taking the next step.
Or even the first internship and job you find, it isn't always something that you learn right away, but over time you'll look back and see, oh, I did learn quite a bit over there, and it shaped me quite a bit.
It's just like the book The Alchemist, which I recommend everyone to read. And I'd love to help anyone or, give any advice I can give based on my experience. I'm happy to help anyone interested in getting into either e-commerce or fashion in any way.
Yeah, any advice that you need, even if it's just general questions or just asking about what she does, you can reach her on Titan Pro Network. But thank you, Monica, so much for joining us this week. We really appreciate it, you sharing your experiences and wisdoms with all of us here at Cal State Fullerton. And if you would like to connect with Monica or any other Titan alumni, like she mentioned, she is on Titan Pro Network, which is our very own Titan LinkedIn site. And with that, you can ask any alumni you see on there, whether it's with fashion, computer science, business, communications. There's alumni in every industry to meet with you and to speak with you, and they're willing to help you out, connecting with you and mentoring you. So join us today at Titan Pro Network. And with that, we're going to end it off. So be sure to join us next Saturday at 4 p.m. where we'll continue with our next guest.
Bye. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.